A very big hello to my bacha party out there. I hope all my dear children are doing absolutely great. Well, I totally understand. For some of you, your pre-board examination might be ongoing. Wishing you the best for that. Now, for those of you whose exams are officially over, and if at all your exams didn't go well as you expected, please understand it was a chutku examination. You will have another big examination coming in front of you and you will be doing better. Yes, you will be giving your best. I'm pretty sure about that. Why? Because you guys are amazing. You guys are rapchik, and always remember that. Okay, so whenever you have self-doubt, think that I can and I will put in my 100% efforts. So with that in your head, today we are going to start solving the questions from the sample paper released by CBSE this year. And these questions are from the subject biology. I hope you know that in science you have biology, chemistry and physics, right? The most number of questions usually comes from biology. So I am going to make sure that you can grab those marks super easily. Well, what's my name? My name is Jasmine. You can call me JJ Man. And if at all you are in it, my dear children, subscribe to the channel right now, because I'll make sure that all your concepts are crystal clear. Okay, and also one very important thing. Whenever CBSE releases sample papers, it also gives you answer sheet form of thing which you call as marking scheme. So there they have given the answers, how you need to write the answers and how you can get full on full in these sections out there. But the thing that I got to see this year is that there are some errors in the marking scheme, as in there are some answers which have been put wrong. And if at all you also saw it, please understand the rectified or the corrected versions of the answer will be over here. So you need not worry about anything. Okay, now we will begin off the session, my dear champions. Coming up to the first level, that is level 1, containing 1 marker questions. And the first question goes like this. Select the group in which all organisms have the same mode of nutrition. Same mode of nutrition. So nutrition is of 2 types. One is autotrophic mode of nutrition. Right? Oh my God, autotrophic spelling itself is wrong. Wait. Autotrophic mode of nutrition, and the other one is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Autotrophic means basically they can prepare their own food. They can prepare their own food, whereas heterotrophs are the one who depend on depends on others for food. Okay, so in autotrophs comes what? Plants out there, they can prepare their own food. Some kinds of bacteria also come under this category. Heterotrophs are the one who depend on the autotrophs or another heterotrophs. For example, me, a human being, come under this category because I either depend on a plant for food or probably another animal for food. Right? Now, under heterotrophs also you have different category. Okay, there is some group of organism who does holozoic mode of nutrition. That means they take in the food and the food is broken inside the body. They depend on others for food, they take in the food and basically they break down the food inside the body. Example, us, we do that, right? Our food is being broken inside our body. Same thing goes with amoeba, same thing goes with paramecium as well. Now you have next group of thing, that is parasitic. Parasitic mode of nutrition also comes under heterotrophs. What do you mean by parasitic? Over here, ma'am, the organism is depending on another living organism for food. Okay, what's so special? Basically, this requires this organism, the host, to be a living organism. Okay, so over here I have a living organism and the another organism which you call as a parasite is depending on it for food. Now this is known as parasitic mode of nutrition, my dear children. Now you have one more which is known as saprophytic or saprotrophic mode of nutrition. What do you mean by that and who showed that? So in holozoic we are taking inside the food and the food is being broken down inside our body. In saprophytic, you know what happens? The food is broken down outside the body. Where do you see it? You see it usually with fungus. So fungus, for example, mushroom is a type of fungus. In the case of mushroom, you know what happens? It releases certain enzymes and it breaks down the food outside itself, and whatever important nutrients is there, that is being absorbed. But breakdown of food is happening outside. So that is saprophytic. So you know the basic thing about nutrition. Now you have to tell which all organisms have the same mode of nutrition. Cuscuta, yeast, legumes, leeches and tapeworm. My dear children, majority of them are parasites. Cuscuta is a plant parasite. Yes, plant parasite is also there. A plant is depending on another plant for food. That is Cuscuta. Now yeast is a fungus. So fungus comes under saprophytes, so wrong. Legumes are basically plants and plants are autotrophic, so wrong. Leeches, my dear children, again, leech is something that depends on our blood. It is a parasite. So this is also a parasite. Tapeworm, it is inside our intestine. It is also our parasite. Not our parasite, it is a parasite. So basically two of them are odd one out, so we will not go with this option. Now cactus, ticks, lice, leeches and cow is there. Now over here cactus is a plant, it does autotrophic mode of nutrition. Ticks, my dear children, ticks and lice, both of them are parasites. Both of them are parasite. Leeches, again, they are parasites. And cow, my dear children, they are like us, they are heterotrophs. They depend on plants for food, right? Now again, this is not the one which has the same type of nutrition. Now Cuscuta, ticks, lice, leeches and tapeworm, all of them, my dear children, they are parasitic in nature. Cactus over here, again, it's a plant. This is also a plant. So basically, lion, my god, it's a heterotroph, right? So heterotroph, and that too, it shows holozoic mode of nutrition. So basically, your answer would be this. And I have the pictures for all of them. So this is Cuscuta. The yellow thing that you see, so they do not have chlorophyll in themselves. And plants usually have chlorophyll, right? And chlorophyll, you know, it is very important for the process of photosynthesis to happen, to prepare their own food. But over here, this guy does not have chlorophyll itself. So which is why it cannot prepare the food by itself. And that's the sole reason it depends on the plant. Okay, it depends on the other plant for nutrition. It takes in, it sucks in all the important food and water. Okay, so this is known as Cuscuta. It is also known as dodder. Okay, dodder. And my dear children, one very important thing, can any one of you tell me the name of that particular part with which the Cuscuta is going to get inside the plant and taking in its nutrient? It starts with H. It is there in your NCERT is what I believe. If at all you know, put it down in the comment section. So that was Cuscuta. Going ahead with the next thing, this is a tick. Okay, it is usually found on the surface of animals, and you have lice, which is usually on our surface, on our hair and all. I hope you guys are not having it. And over here you have leech, my dear children, which also sucks our blood. It is usually this small, you cannot even see it, but when it drinks blood, it becomes like this. Okay, and then you have tapeworm, which is inside the body, usually inside the intestine. Okay, they're all parasites. As you can see, all of them look so khatarnak, dangerous, right? So I hope this question is super clear to you. We move ahead with the second question, which says, which of the following options indicates the products formed after the breakdown of glucose in our muscle cells when there is lack of oxygen? Read it again. Which of the following option indicates the products formed after breakdown of glucose? So after glucose is being broken down in our muscle cells where there is lack of oxygen, what do you think are the products is being asked over here? Well, the answer to this question is B, lactic acid plus energy. And for that, I would have to explain you certain things. So my dear children, glucose breakdown is not a one-step process. Glucose initially breaks down into pyruvate. Into what? Pyruvate. So glucose contains 6 carbons. Okay, it divides, it forms 2 pyruvate molecule because pyruvate just has 3 carbons. So it forms 2 pyruvate molecule, and while it forms pyruvate, it also produces some amount of energy. In this process, some amount of energy is also being made. Now suppose this is a cell. This is a cell. Inside the cell, I hope you guys know this plain area that you see, it is known as cytoplasm. Inside that you have the nucleus, and over here you have the other organelles as well. And now my important organelle over here is mitochondria. So usually what happens, glucose to pyruvate conversion happens here in the cytoplasm. Now the pyruvate needs to break down again to produce a large amount of honey, not honey, Why did I say honey? Large amount of energy. So why are we breaking down glucose? Because we want energy. But if it stops right over here, we get only little energy. If we want the maximum amount of energy, this pyruvate, my dear children, has to get inside mitochondria, has to get converted to something, and later has to be broken down to three things. That is carbon dioxide, water and energy. Carbon dioxide, water and energy. This energy which is being produced, that is too much amount of energy. This is what usually happens. But my dear children, in this particular case, you will be requiring oxygen. You will be requiring oxygen. Whenever oxygen is there, then only this can happen. Fine. Now suppose in the body there is lack of oxygen. For example, I have went on a marathon and I have run so far, I'm now tired, I'm not even breathing, I'm gasping for breath. At this particular point of time, my muscle cells which are there, they face a lack of oxygen situation out there. Now if oxygen is not there, can it undergo this process? No. Which is why in the cytoplasm itself, the pyruvate decides to form something else which you call as lactic acid. Here also energy is being produced but very less. Here also energy is being produced but that is very less. So lactic acid plus energy is produced in the case of muscle cells. Now one more scenario is given in your NCERT, and that is about yeast, my dear children. In yeast also you might have heard about fermentation, right? So fermentation is a process where when oxygen is not there, the glucose is being broken down to something. So what is this something? So glucose breaks down to pyruvate. Until this it is common. Now pyruvate which is there, it breaks down into ethanol and carbon dioxide and energy. Here also energy is being produced but very less. Okay, so ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. And ethanol, since it is being produced, which is why we say that after fermentation you have alcohol content. So that's how wine and everything is being made. I hope you know that. So it also happens in the absence of oxygen. Only thing that happens in the presence is this, and that you get highest amount of energy, and also you have other things, byproducts such as carbon dioxide and water. Okay, now over here the question is, in our muscle cell, whenever there is lack of oxygen, what is being produced? So we know it is what? Lactic acid plus energy. And this lactic acid, when it gets accumulated, that's when you get sprains. Okay, that's when you get sprain. I hope you got it. So when you get sprain, please make sure you sit down, breathe for a while, slowly things will be fine. Okay, hopefully. Now question number 3. Before I go ahead with question number 3, very important information. My dear children, if at all you want the PDF for all these things, make sure you are joining our WhatsApp channel. The link will be given in the description section, and make sure you are subscribing to the channel as well. Okay, so which of the following is a correct combination of function and part of the brain? Function and the part of the brain, it should match. Okay, so posture and balance, cerebrum. Posture and balance, it is cerebrum. No, posture and balance is done by cerebellum. Cerebellum. Always remember, cerebellum has 2 L, which looks like this. Posture. It's for posture. It's straight. So posture and balance is by cerebellum. Now people who drink, okay, they drink alcohol, and you might have seen they move like this. Why? Because their cerebellum is the one which is affected. Now salivation is there. Salivation means salivate. For example, I see a food and randomly water comes in my mouth, right? Why does it happen? Who is responsible for that? So here it is written, medulla in the midbrain is responsible for that. Well, until here it was correct. It is done by medulla, but medulla is not in the midbrain. Medulla is a part of the hindbrain. So basically this answer goes wrong again. Now hunger, pons in the hindbrain. Hunger, thirst, sleepiness, all of it is being controlled by something which you call as hypothalamus. And hypothalamus is found in our forebrain, not our hindbrain or midbrain. So this is also wrong. So ma'am, we are left with only one option. This is correct, right? Yes, obviously. So blood pressure controlled by medulla in the hindbrain. So medulla, I said it is in the hindbrain, and blood pressure is actually controlled by medulla. There's an easy way to remember. Okay, all your involuntary functions, something which you cannot control. For example, blood pressure. For example, salivation. Can you control salivation? No, it happens, right? And your heartbeat, your breathing rate, everything, my dear children, which is involuntary is being controlled by the most important part of our brain, which is medulla, which is found in the hindbrain, which is a part of what? Your hindbrain. Always remember that. Okay, and all your voluntary functions, for example, movement, taking off a pencil, pen and everything, it is controlled usually by cerebellum. It is controlled by cerebellum. Cerebellum is also a part of hindbrain. So actually the picture looks like this. You have three parts of your brain: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Hindbrain has three regions. One is cerebellum over here, and then you have pons and medulla oblongata. Medulla is the one that controls all the involuntary functions in general. Okay, now in forebrain you have cerebrum. Cerebrum is responsible for your thinking, intelligence and all of this thing. Okay. Cerebellum and cerebrum is different. Cerebrum is like the biggest part of the brain, and then cerebellum is the second one, which is big in nature. Okay, cerebellum for posture and balance, always remember that. Now forebrain just does not contain cerebrum but also hypothalamus as well as thalamus, as I already told you. And hypothalamus, H for hunger, thirst, everything you can remember like that. Okay, so hypothalamus is also a part of your forebrain. H for hunger and T for thirst, and S for what? Your sleep and everything. Okay, fine, cool. Then let's go ahead. And midbrain, my dear children, it's a part which kind of acts as a what do you call, connection link between all of this thing. I hope that's clear. And with that, we go ahead with the next question. The blood glucose level in a patient was very high. It may be due to inadequate secretion of. So the blood glucose, so Ramu was there. In Ramu, all of a sudden when his blood sugar level was checked, it was so high. When you say blood sugar level is high, what do you mean? That the level of glucose, my dear children, is high. Now in the blood, glucose molecules are running very freely. They are very, very happy. Now who is there to control this happiness? Who is there in our body to control this happiness? It is none other than the pancreas. So pancreas, which is a part of our body, my dear children, it produces insulin, which is a hormone. And you know what does insulin do? Insulin basically captures all this happy glucose molecules and converts it into something which is known as glycogen. So glucose molecules are taken up and converted to glycogen and stored in the liver. And it is said that you are not supposed to come out until and unless it is needed. So whenever we feel less in energy at that particular point of time, this glycogen is now broken down later on. That is not controlled by insulin. Okay, that is controlled by some other hormone known as glucagon. Glucagon basically says that glycogen is gone. It is now converted back into what? Glucose. So these two hormones are being secreted by pancreas. But as of now, the question is that the level of sugar is high. That means blood glucose is high. Now it is because insulin is not working properly, right? Insulin is not capturing this and converting into glycogen. So that is the question. So why it is? It is because inadequate secretion of insulin from the pancreas. So your answer for this question is this. And my dear children, say thanks to this guy, that is pancreas. Cool. Let's go ahead. Question number 5. In a cross between black-furred rabbit, now this is genetics question, and most of you guys are like very much tense when it comes to genetics, heredity chapter. It's super easy, trust me on this, okay? So in a cross between black-furred rabbit, now over here black is shown up by a capital B letter, which means that black character, okay, it is what? A dominant trait. And white-furred rabbit is also there, which is denoted by small b. Now, all offsprings of this black and white-furred were having black fur. So, a black fur rabbit and a white fur rabbit were crossed, and all of them were having black fur. So, my dear children, information is given. This is for black and this is for white. Now, you are saying all of them are black in color. Now, over here, you are being asked, what is the genotype of these parents? What are these parents? What is the genetic makeup of this parent? So, my dear children, if all of them need to have this capital B, if all of them necessarily need to have a capital B, then over here, the parent's genotype should be like this. Because from one parent, you should always get capital B. If you still didn't understand, I'll tell you. So over here we need black fur. That means we need one dominant allele over here. So this and this crosses, I get capital B small b. This and this I get capital B small b. This and this capital B small b. This and this capital B small b. Only in this condition all of them will be black. Why? Because the capital B is there to overshadow the effect of small b, and all of them will show black color. So the genotype should be like this. Now if at all it is something else, for example, I count this, capital B small b and capital B small b. In this case, this and this, when it is crossed, capital B is there, all cool. This and this, capital B small b is there, still all cool. But when this and this is crossed, you get capital B small b. Again, this is also cool. This and this, it will be small b small b. But here small b if it comes, it is white fur, right? But here you have said that all of them are black fur. So all of them needs one dominant allele. In that case, the parent, one parent should be having complete dominant trait out there. Okay, complete dominant trait should be there. Cool. Now here this parent can be like this, or it could have also been like this. But here this parent should have both the alleles to be dominant. I hope you got it. So your answer for this question becomes A. So here is the thing. B, capital B, small b, small b. This is Punnett square. You put both of them here, you put both. So this is not like this, it should be like this. Okay, small b. And now you cross. So what do you get? You get this. All of them would be capital B, small b. All of them would be black in color. Okay? Cool. Question number 5 is also done. Let's go with question number 6. Which are the correct statements related to ozone? What is ozone? Ozone is basically made up of an oxygen atom and the molecular form of oxygen. So molecular form of oxygen is O2. Oxygen atom is just O. So O plus O2 gives what? O3, which is what? Ozone. So ozone, my dear children, it can be found in 2 levels. Either in ground level, like where we are living, or probably in stratosphere. It is a part of your whole layers of your different layers of your earth, my dear children. It can be a part of your stratosphere, or it can be on ground level. If it is there on the stratosphere, in the stratosphere, it is all cool. They are super good. They do amazing work out there. But if they are in the ground level, they are not too good. They cause a lot of respiratory issues, cause a lot of cancer and defects like that. So at ground level, they are a deadly poison. Always remember. So it is usually said, it is at the top, they are doing an amazing work, right? Yes, they are. But can you ignore the fact that if they come down, if they come to the ground level, they are a deadly poison? No. So do not be confused there ever. Now try to answer this question. Ozone layer helps in increasing the UV radiations reaching the earth. No, that is the actual function of ozone. Ozone basically in the layer stratosphere, it stops the UV radiation to come within. It stops it. If UV radiation come inside, my dear children, we might have skin cancer and lot of the other things. So they form a layer. Over here, all the ozone molecules, my dear children, they come together, they join their hands, not join their hands, they have bonds. So basically they form a layer around and protect us from this harmful UV radiation. So this is wrong because it is saying that it helps in increasing the UV radiations. Wrong. Now ozone is a deadly poison. I told you it is at ground level. So is there any way I can say it is wrong? No, this is correct. Ozone layer shields the earth from UV radiation. Ma'am, you just told, obviously it has to be correct. Now ozone layer prevents UV rays which causes skin cancer. Yes, UV rays causes skin cancer. So this is also correct. Now ozone is formed with the help of chlorofluorocarbons. CFCs. Do you think ozone is formed with the help of CFCs? No, it is just atomic oxygen plus molecular form of oxygen. Ozone, which is there, it is being broken up by chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, which is released by refrigerators and all of these things. So this is responsible for the breakup of O3, not for making up O3. Always remember that. So 1, 2, 3 options are correct. So 2, 3, 4 are the ones which are correct. 2, 3, 4. Yes, this is your answer. Okay. And my dear children, it looks like this. So you have different layers. You have ozone layer in the stratosphere. So good ozone here protects organism from harmful radiation. But as I said, bad ozone can be here causing health problems such as what? Irritation in the eye, cancer also, skin issues, all of that can be happening because of ozone in ground level. So always remember 2 parts of the question can be there, good and bad. Now question number 7. which says, which of the following human activities has resulted in an increase of non-biodegradable substance? So this slide, if you notice properly, it looks somewhat different, right? So I tried to use my creative brain. I do not know how successful was it, but anyways. So which of the following human activities has resulted in an increase of non-biodegradable substance? Increase of non-biodegradable substance. Organic farming, increase in tree plantation, use of plastic as packaging material, composting of kitchen waste. So organic farming is good, increase in tree plantation definitely good, composting of kitchen waste is also good. All of them leads to biodegradable thing. They are all biodegradable thing, right? You're talking about increase in non-biodegradable substances. So over here, what will be your answer? What is going down? It is the plastic. So use of plastic as packaging material would be the answer for this question. A direct question, a very easy question as well. Cool. Now going ahead with the next question, question number 8. Assertion: tallness of a pea plant is controlled by an enzyme. Tallness is a character. It is controlled by an enzyme is being said over here. Do you think that is true? Yes. Suppose this enzyme is something. This enzyme, you know, it is responsible for making the reactions really fast, right? So this enzyme is something that converts A to B, and probably this B thing which is there could help the plant grow in height. It can help in the formation of a growth hormone. It can help in the formation or increasing what? The height. So this statement is correct. Let's talk about the next statement. The gene for that enzyme makes protein which help the plant to be tall. What? The gene for that enzyme makes protein which helps the plant to be tall. So you need to understand a funda. So I might show you the answer over here, but please look at this first. So we have chromosome. Not just we, plants also have chromosome. The chromosome is made up of tiny chromosome is what? It's your DNA being condensed, right? Now your DNA which is there, it has slight small segments which you call as what? Genes. And each gene which is there, it actually codes for a protein. It codes for a protein. So over here, it is coding for a protein that is responsible for the height. So over here, it is coding for a protein. Now my dear children, you need to understand one very important thing. Enzyme which is there, enzyme is also a protein. The proteins which is there can make multiple things out there, right? It can make multiple things. It can form a receptor, it can form an enzyme, lot of things. So basically the protein which is made over here, it is nothing but an enzyme. It is nothing but an enzyme, and this enzyme, as I said, is responsible for the height of the plant. So you are correct when you say that gene for that enzyme makes protein. Because you do not say that gene codes for enzymes directly. Rather, you say that gene makes the protein. Now, protein can be anything. It can take any form. It can be enzyme. It can be something else also. So, over here, it is forming the enzyme which is needed for the plant to be tall. So, can I say the tallness of a pea plant is controlled by an enzyme? That is correct. And also, this is explaining how it is controlling. That basically, it codes for the protein that helps the plant to be tall. So, I'll say both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Cool. I hope you got it. Okay. Now question number 9. Assertion A. Vulture will always have the least amount of pesticides in a food chain. Pesticides basically are what? Basically they are the ones that is used to kill the pest in the case of plants. Now vulture which is there, it have the least amount of pesticides in a food chain. What do you think? Well, think about it. We'll go to the next option. Vulture occupies the last trophic level and it only gets 10% of the energy of the previous trophic level. So basically suppose there was a fox over here, okay, and there is vulture over here. So only 10% of energy will be going to the vulture, rest of the energy will be used up by the fox, right? We have studied 10% law, only 10% will be going up. So this is correct. Vulture actually occupies the last trophic level and it gets only 10% of energy of the previous trophic level. So I'll say reason is correct, but assertion is under question. Assertion is actually wrong. It will not have the least amount of pesticides, rather it will have the most amount of pesticides. Now you might be thinking, ma'am, pesticides in plants, how will vulture have it? So vulture is a top carnivore, agree. Plant is over here. Suppose I am putting pesticides on the plants. Plants take this up. Okay, plants take this up. Now it is there in the plant. It is there in the plant. Why? The bad property about all these pesticides is that they cannot be broken down easily. So they just accumulate. Rather being broken down, they are getting accumulated. Now what will happen? A rabbit comes and eat it. Rabbit comes and eats it, it will have all these pesticides. It will have all these pesticides. Obviously, it is eating the plant which has the pesticides, right? Now, rabbit does not eat one plant. It feeds on multiple plants. So, that means more amount of pesticides. Now, a fox comes in and eats rabbits. Not just one rabbit, but multiple rabbits. Each of them having more amount of pesticides. And please understand, the pesticide is not getting broken down. Rather, it is getting accumulated. You call this process as bioaccumulation. What do you call this as? You call this as bioaccumulation. It is getting accumulated, my dear children. Now what will happen? When you go to the highest trophic level, they will have the most amount of pesticides, because they are the organism which are basically feeding on other organism which have so many lower organism in front of them. They have feeded all of it. Right, my dear children. So they will have the highest amount of pesticides, and this is known as biomagnification. Magnification. When you magnify, you can see it more, right? Similarly, over here, the pesticide is being accumulated in the most amount in the topmost carnivore out there, and this process is known as biomagnification. Always remember, biomagnification happens because of what? Bioaccumulation. Something is getting accumulated, which is why it is being passed on, and increase in the highest amount at the top. Okay, so assertion which was there, vulture will always have the least amount of pesticides in a food chain, is wrong. A is false, but R is what? True. It occupies the last trophic level and gets only 10% energy of the previous trophic level. That is exactly correct according to the 10% law. Cool? Done? So children, are we enjoying the session or is it boring? I hope we are. I hope we are learning. I have tried to include more pictures, and now with that we will be coming to level 2, where we are going to deal with the 2 marker questions out there. There are only few. Let's solve them. So unlike animals, plants do not have any excretory products as they do not eat food. Comment upon the statement with justification. So unlike animals, animals you might have seen that they have their process of excretion in the form of urine. Right, we urinate, and that is our mode of excretion out there. Now in the case of plants, have you seen them urinating? Obviously no. And do you think they do not excrete at all? If you think so, well, it is wrong, because they do. They also release the unwanted thing. Now for them, the unwanted thing varies. For example, they do photosynthesis, and in photosynthesis what do you need? You need carbon dioxide plus water and everything, and it converts into glucose plus what? Oxygen and everything out there. So this oxygen which is being released, suppose this oxygen is not needed too much by the plant. Plant has enough oxygen for the next process, that is respiration. Okay, suppose plant has enough oxygen for the process of respiration. Now whatever is left behind is not needed, and it has to release it, right? It is a waste for it, and it has to release it. So how does it do that? With the help of the stomata, the pores which are there on the leaves, right? So through the help of that, basically plants would be excreting out the oxygen. It will be excreting out the oxygen. That is one thing. Now the next thing, suppose plant does not want too much amount of water. There is too much water in the plant's body, and now it wants to release some of it. Again, how is it happening? With the help of transpiration process. You have heard of transpiration, right? With the help of the process of transpiration, water is being lost. Water is being lost through the stomata. So again, this is a mode of what? Excretion out there. Transpiration usually happens when the sun is really, really bright. That causes the water to be evaporated, and this process is known as transpiration, where water is lost through evaporation when sun is bright. Okay, now there is one more technique, and that is release of gums and raisins. So gums and raisins, you might have seen on the surface of plant that there is some gums and raisins. This is again an excretory product. They do not want it, and they can be using it for defense and all of this thing also, but it is an excretory product. Always remember that. And most of their products are stored inside a vacuole. We know that inside all of a house you might have a little storehouse, right, to store all the things out there. Similarly over here, there in the plants also, 90% of the plant's entire cell is, the space is being consumed by one big organelle which is known as vacuole. So how do you need to write the answer? According to the mark sheet or the marking scheme which is given to you, you have to write the answers like this. It is completely wrong to say that plants do not produce any excretory products. However, plants use completely different strategies for excretion than those of animals. And it goes like this. You just have to write any two because it's a 2-marker question. So oxygen, a photosynthetic waste, is removed through stomata. That is one thing. Excess water, okay, not plain water, excess amount of water, if it is there, it is removed by transpiration through stomata. Other metabolic waste are either stored in the dead cells, dead cells, raisins and gums, or are removed through falling of old leaf. Yes, that is also there. The leaf you might have seen, they fall down. The older ones, these older ones have all the unwanted things as well. So you always have to remember these are the 3 ways in which they excrete. Okay, and many waste products are stored in the cellular vacuoles, as I have already told you. I hope this answer is clear. Make sure you write your answers in points. Make sure you're underlining as well. It is going to be super helpful for your marks. A teacher who is tired of checking the answer sheets might look for the things that you have underlined and might give you free goodie buggies out there, might give you free marks. Okay, fine. Let's go with the next question. Now, question number 11 has part A and part B. You can attempt either A or B. So A goes like this. How many chambers are there in the heart of the following organisms? How is mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood prevented in their body? So how many chambers are there in fishes and how many chambers are there in human beings? So we all know, I hope you all know that we have how many? We have 4. We and the birds, both of us will be having 4. Fishes on the other hand, my dear children, they just have 2. They just have 2, chambers in their heart. Now, in fishes, how does things work? So please understand, fishes, they just have 2 chambers. One will be atrium and other will be ventricle, right? Atrium and ventricle. Now, over here, suppose this is a fish. Okay, a cute little fish out of here. Now you have the gills. Now the gills, my dear children, the cells of the gills are being richly supplied with blood vessels. Okay, so what usually happens is that the fish opens the mouth, takes in water, and in the water you will have oxygen in dissolved form. So the water is coming and is being passing out through the gills. And while it passes out through the gills, what will happen? This oxygen which is there goes into the blood which is there, blood vessels which is there near the gills. Now the gills which is there or the capillaries which is there in the gills, my dear children, they will have high amount of oxygen in them. Okay, the blood which is there in the capillaries found in the gills, they will have high amount of oxygen in them. I'll call this blood as oxygenated blood. This oxygenated blood is needed by what? The cells of the body. So it goes to the rest of the body, gives oxygen to all of it, my dear children. But the poor heart, when it comes to the heart, from the rest of the body, now the blood is going to come towards the heart. But this is deoxygenated blood. Why? Because oxygen have been given. Now what is the written product? CO2 and everything which was not necessary by the cells. So it is there for an exchange. So deoxygenated blood will be now entering the heart. And the first part of the heart is the atrium. First comes A, then comes B. We always remember that. So deoxygenated blood comes to the atrium, then goes to the ventricle. Now what happens? Again, you need to oxygenate it, right? And where is oxygenation happening? It is happening in the gills. So the blood now goes back to the capillaries of the gills. So always remember, in the case of fishes, you do not need a proper separation of heart for oxygenated and deoxygenated blood because they just have 2 chambers. Heart never receives the oxygenated blood, rather it gets the deoxygenated form of blood. Okay. Oxygenation happens over here, directly given to the rest of the body. I hope that's clear. Now over here you have the heart of the human beings. Now in the heart of the human beings, my dear children, we have 2 sides, left side and right side. There is left atrium and there is right atrium. Okay, sorry. So over here, left atrium is there and then you have left ventricle. Similarly, right atrium is there and there is right ventricle. So what usually happens is that lungs, when we breathe in, When we breathe in, we are taking in oxygen, and now this oxygen which is there, it is received by the blood vessels or the blood of our lungs. Now the blood of our lungs is there, which is oxygenated. This oxygenated blood cannot directly go to the entire body, unlike in fishes, because they were small. But in us, we need a pumping system because our body is very big, my dear children, which is why we need a heart. So basically what happens is that over here, the oxygenated blood which comes from the lungs, okay, which comes from the lungs, directly comes to the left atrium. Lungs, L, and left atrium, you can remember like that. It comes to the left atrium. From the atrium, when the atrium contracts, all of it goes to the left ventricle. Now when the ventricle contracts, all of it will be going to the rest of our body. So oxygenated blood is on the left side. Now when it goes to the rest of the body will be giving back deoxygenated blood. It will take in all the oxygen and all. It will give back some carbon dioxide and all these things which are needed, which is to be removed. Now the deoxygenated blood will come back where? To the heart. But does it go to the left atrium this time? No, it goes to the right atrium. It goes to the right atrium. Now when the atrium contracts, it goes to the ventricle. Now after the ventricle, what, my dear children? After the ventricle, where will it go? Now it has to get oxygenated, so it is contracted again, and this blood goes back to our lungs for the process of oxygenation. Okay, always remember this as left atrium, LA. Right, LA says O for oxygen. So basically now bring in oxygen is what is said by the left portion. Always remember. So how do you think both of them prevent deoxygenated and oxygenated blood mixing? Basically there is a septum in between which does not allow the mixing of blood at all. Okay, so there is no mixing of blood, and that would be your answer for this question. So there are two chambers in the heart of the fish. The blood is pumped to the gills, is oxygenated there and passed directly to the rest of the body. Now this statement is written by me because it was not there in the marking scheme. Now from the rest of the body, deoxygenated blood returns to the heart, which is pumped back to the gills for oxygenation again. From the rest of the body, this deoxygenated blood returns to the heart, from where it is being pumped back to the gills for what? Oxygenation. Now what happens in the case of humans? There are 4 chambers in the heart of a human being. Separation of the right side and the left side of the heart by a septum prevents mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. That's all. Remember, it's a 2-mark question. You do not need to write too much about it. Cool? And please write in points. Now the B part of the question, as I said, there is one more part. So that is, explain the mechanism by which water is transported in plants. In plants, how do you think water is transported? Do they have any hands to pick up the water and drink and things, do like that? No, my dear children. So they basically depend on 2 things. Okay, one is root pressure theory, and the other one is transpirational pull theory. Transpirational pull theory. Okay, it's easy. Listen to me carefully. Now the roots, let's focus on the roots of the plant. The roots over here, my dear children, they are some things that want so much amount of nutrients. The plant wants nutrients, right? And suppose there are so many ions over here. There are so many ions in the soil, because we supply the soil with ions, right? So what do they do is that plant says, I will give you ATP. With the help of ATP, I'll even spend my ATPs, I'll spend my cash, and I'll take these ions inside. I will take this ions inside. This is known as active transport, when you are spending ATP for basically taking in something inside. So I am taking in ions. This is known as active transport. Now you only think, ions are way too much within this cell. Ions are way too much over here. This is hypertonic situation, where the ion solute is more but the solvent is less. Now you need solvent also. From where do you get solvent? Again from the soil itself. So from the soil, the water which is there will now enter with the help of the process of osmosis. It will enter. Now when water enters, my dear children, so what happens is that the water molecule 1 is there, the water molecule 2 is entering. What is exactly happening is that it is pushing It is basically pushing the water molecules to basically go up. That's how water goes up. That's how water goes up. But that would not be, this pressure is not enough to take in water to the entire plant, right? So you need something else, and that's where come the transpirational pull theory. Basically, we know that if sun is bright over there, water molecules which are there, they get evaporated and they go away. So just suppose that H2O molecules which are there, they are hand in hand. One by one these molecules are arranged. Now when one water molecules go, what happened? It pulls the other one. It pulls the other one. So this one would be going up now. This one would be going up. Same thing happens, my dear children. The water molecules which are there, they are very close to each other. They pull each other up. This is known as transpirational pull. Now when you have a pull, don't you think the water automatically will come inside? Okay, so initially it was root pressure, but now it's also transpirational pull, which helps in what? The transport of water. And always remember, the transport of water is being done with the help of some special tissue out there which you call as xylem. Water transport is done by xylem, whereas food transport is done by phloem. Fur for food, fur for phloem. Okay, and always remember, if at all you see over here, the movement of water is always unidirectional, only in one direction it goes. But the movement of food, you cannot say the food is made over here, I will not give the food to anyone else. It does not work like that. The food has to be transported upwards as well as downwards, right? But that's not the case in the case of water. So over here, how do you need to write the answer? Xylem moves water and minerals obtained from the soil through roots to all the other parts of the plant in a unidirectional manner. Underline this and underline this. Right now you put transpirational pull theory. So this words were not there. I just added it up so that you have an understanding. Transpiration takes place from the leaf which causes transpirational pull in the tracheids and the vessels. Now xylem is a tissue made up of multiple cells. One type of cell is tracheids and the other type of cell is vessels. Both of them are super important. Okay, please remember it. Facilitating the upward movement of the water. Now, root pressure theory. Roots actively take up ions from the soil, leading to difference in concentration gradient. Thereby, water moves into the roots to eliminate this difference, creating a steady movement of water into the root xylem. From the root xylem, it goes to the shoot xylem. Okay, cool, done. My dear children, I hope you guys are understanding it and understanding it well. So now next question, about 100 acres of forest land was declared as Natural Reserve Park. The following organisms were predominant in the Natural Reserve Park: rabbit, frog, grass, fish, fox, water, insects, zebra, peacock, snake, trees, birds, owl, insects, tiger, again insect, vulture, duck, etc. etc. Create a food web comprising 2 separate food chains with different producers by using the above data. So basically you have to make 2 separate food chains with different producers. Producers are the ones that basically produces the food. So it has to be a plant. So my dear children, in plants case, I have a grass over here and basically I also have trees over here. So I can make a tree food chain and a grassland food chain. So tree food chain, my dear children, if I start off with tree. Okay, in tree, what do I have? Suppose there are some insects which are feeding. Okay, and the insects, my dear children, are being insects which are there. Insects which are there, they are being eaten by a peacock. But this is a tree. I cannot put peacock there. So I have to put something else there. So what will I put? Okay, birds. What am I doing? Okay, there is birds. There is birds that I am putting over here. Let's stop it over here itself and let's try to make the grass. So grass is there. Now in the grass, my dear children, again you need to find something. So let's find something. So again insect. Okay, again insect. And now these insects can be eaten up by what? Rabbit does not eat insect. Again I can make it like birds. My dear children, this will be a common point, right? And now the birds which are there, they can be eaten by what? Something else also, like tiger. Okay, a tiger can eat the birds. And also over here, my dear children, what can it be? The tiger, and over here it can be eaten by a vulture. So basically 2 different food chains are there. They have a connecting point, and that is what? Birds. So you just have to take a note of that. And over here nothing else is being mentioned. You just have to make the producers to be different. Okay, so that is something that we can do. Now obviously you can think better. Okay, so I am in front of this thing and I am seeing it will be looking so different than you guys. So yes, this is something that you can do. This makes sense. Okay, so similarly you have to make 2 food chains and attach them at a common point, and probably then you can make other organisms there. So this is what a food web along with 2 food chains. Cool. Now next, going ahead. Okay, I've already made it. So level 1 and level 2 is officially finished, and now we have leveled up. We are in level 3 where we have the 3 marker questions. And my dear children who all have reached level 3, put it down in the comment section that ma'am or JJ ma'am, I am in level 3 now. Okay, so I really want to know who all have reached up to that level and who all are actually leveling up the game. So draw and explain how the nerve cells helps in transmission of impulses. So how do you explain that? First of all, you have to draw a nerve cell. And how do you draw that, if at all that question is being asked? So my dear children, I'll just need, okay. So over here, easy way to draw a cell is like this. Now this is what it is known as the cell body, or you also call it as the soma. The cell body or the soma, the main part of the cell, where you have the nucleus and all the other organelles. Now over here, my dear children, you would be having the extensions which you call as dendrites. So you can join them and then you can make it, it's not a problem. So no one is going to do anything with that. So that is what the dendrites. Here also please join them. Okay. This is the dendrites which is up there. So they are extensions of the cytoplasm itself. Now this thing which is extending way too much, this is known as the axon. It is known as the axon. Now at the tip again you have some terminal region, axon terminals. So please make it something like this. Listen, you do not need to be Picasso to draw this. No one is expecting you to draw that. So these are what? The axon terminals. Now please understand, how does basically a nervous system, or what do you call the neurons, work? So the tips of the dendrites, my dear children, which is there, they have certain things on them. You call these things as receptors. Okay, what do you call them as? You call them as receptors. Now these receptors are going to receive something, some chemicals. Suppose a chemical came and bound over here. Same thing happened with all the other dendritic tips as well, right? Now what will happen? Initially the plasma membrane which is there, it is closed. It is closed, it does not allow the entry of anything. But now there are certain ion channels in the plasma membrane which gets opened up. It gets opened up, my dear children, and what will happen? There will be entry of so many ions. There will be entry of ions, there will be exit of ions, which causes a difference in the potential. That means the ion which was there, there's a change in the gradient of the ions. And now, my dear children, what will happen? The same thing will transfer again in front. So basically you are saying that this signal which came in, a chemical signal which came in, is now going to create an electrical impulse. It is now going to create an electrical impulse which is going to move. So when I say it is moving, so basically I mean that the ion channels are opening, and the backside of it is closing. So it goes on, and the electrical impulse will reach this region, that is the axon terminals. And you need to know one very important thing. There are chemicals being stored over here. There are so many chemicals which are being stored over here. So when the electrical impulse comes right over here, these chemicals are released. These chemicals are now released. Now what do you call this space? This space is known as synapse. This space is known as synapse. Suppose there is another dendrite over here and you have the receptors over here. These chemicals are going to land on the dendrites of the next neuron, and the signal will be transmitted like that. So please understand, it is not necessary that always it will be a neuron which is next. It can be a muscle. It can be a muscle cell, or it can be also a gland where it ends. It can also be a gland. And these chemicals which are being released, you call them as neurotransmitters. They are what? Neurotransmitters. So I'll tell you, starting from this point, neurotransmitters are there. They basically go and bind on the receptors of the dendrites and they send the signal. Initially it's a chemical signal, but now it is transferred to an electrical impulse which moves through the axon, goes to the axon terminals, makes the axon terminals release the neurotransmitters, and the neurotransmitters goes into the space which is known as synapse, and now it can go and bind on a neuron itself, or basically act on a muscle, or basically act on a gland, either things. So this is the whole thing. This is how it goes. Now how do you need to write it? How do you need to write the answer? That is also a question. So here I have a proper picture. You can draw this, and this is a synapse. As I told you, this neurotransmitters basically are released from here and goes and binds on the receptors on the dendrite. So you write the answer like this, and you need to make the diagram. Draw is being written, so make sure you're drawing it properly. So all information from our environment is detected by specialized tips of some nerve cells. The information acquired at the end of the dendritic tip of a nerve cell, figure A. So basically figure A, will be figure A. Mention when you're drawing, this is figure A. And then you can write it over here. Sets off a chemical reaction that creates an electrical impulse. This impulse travels from the dendrite to the cell body and then along the axon to its end. At the end of the axon, the electrical impulses set off the release of some chemicals. What are these chemicals? Neurotransmitters. These chemicals cross the gap or the synapse and start a similar electrical impulse in a dendrite of the next neuron. It can be next neuron, as I said, it can be a muscle, it can be a gland also. This is how nervous system travel in the body. Now figure B is where figure B can be mentioned over here itself, and you can draw this particular diagram. The terminal axon over here, there are some chemicals and which is being released in the synapse area. That's all. It's easy. Okay, so this is a 3-marker question. If you draw and write the answer properly, you will get your marks. Okay, question number 14. Now this is again related to genetics, and this is the question that I was saying is written wrong in your marking scheme. The answer is given wrong. So we need to make sure that we give the correct answer. So in a genetic experiment, plants with pure round green seeds were crossed with plants with wrinkled yellow seeds. So round green is being mentioned. So capital R means this is a dominant trait. Please understand, this has to be, round is a dominant trait. But small y is mentioned over here. That means green is a recessive trait. Write somewhere that dominant is what? Round. Recessive is what? It is green. Okay. Now it is crossed with what? It is crossed with wrinkled yellow. So wrinkled yellow. And how do you write it over here? It is written small r and capital Y. So what do you understand? Yellow is dominant in terms of color. Yellow is the one which is dominant. So round and yellow are dominant thing. And if we talk about the recessive character between round and wrinkled, it is wrinkled which is recessive. So you write that also. That wrinkled is what? Recessive. Done? Now you solve the question. Now it is said that show the gametes formed when F1 was pollinated. So you have to tell the gametes which are there in the F1 generation. How do you need to find the gametes? Do you have any idea? So always picturize it in the form of this. So almost 4 chromosomes. Okay. In 2 you write this. Capital R. Here also it is capital R. So here also you put capital R. Here it is small y. And here also it is small y. So from this pair of the chromosome, only one is going to go to a gamete, because in gamete only half of the things will be there. So from here it will be capital R which is going to come. From here there is no option, small y only. So basically whatever gametes are going to be formed, there are 4 combinations. This can go with this, this can go with this, this can go with this, this can go with this. Whatever you do, the gamete is going to look like this, capital R, small y, right? Now on the other hand, if at all you talk about this particular plant, my dear children, so here it is small r, and there is capital Y. Now from here only one, so small r. From here also only one, that is capital Y. Whatever you do, it will be the thing. So the gametes which are there, show the gametes formed when F1 was pollinated. It is small r, capital Y, and capital R, small y. These are the gametes. Okay, now you are being asked, a total of 144 seeds are produced which develop into saplings. So the ratio in which traits are independently inherited in this 144 saplings. So basically, they are asking you that basically I have done the pollination, I have done everything, and now I am getting 144 seats. I am getting 144 seats, and I am talking about independent independent inheritance. Okay, I'm talking about independent inheritance. So what will be the thing that I can find out? So you have studied that when these things are pollinated, you get a plant, you do selfing again. So when both of them, my dear children, these gametes come together, you get capital R small r and capital Y small y. How? So from here, in this cell, you had the gene for capital R and you also had small y. Here you had what? Small r and you had capital Y. Now when both of them would come together, it will look like this: one capital R, one small r, one capital Y and one small y. So these are the things. Now when you cross them, my dear children, this plant is crossed with another one which is exactly like this, You are going to find plants in a ratio 9:3:3:1. You will find plants in a ratio 9:3:3:1. If at all you are confused, I can take it from here. So capital R small r, capital Y small y is there, right? Okay, so here you are, just a second, with that I remember, here you are asked when F1 was pollinated. So F1 is this, capital R small r and capital Y small y. Now you have to tell what are the gametes when F1 is pollinated. You have been asked about the next generation, right? The next generation. So I'm so sorry, it is not this. You have been asked about next generation, so you have to do something for that also. So let's take the parent. The parent is what? Capital R small r, capital Y small y. Here also the parent is capital R small r, capital Y small y, right? So I missed the thing that F1 was pollinated. So after F1 is being pollinated, you get this, and now you cross them again because that's what the question is. So here, what are the gametes, my dear children? Again, you make chromosome, capital R, small r, capital Y and small y. From this, capital R can come, from this capital Y can come, this is a gamete. From this, capital R can come, from here small y can come, this is a gamete. From here small r can come, from here capital Y can come, this is a gamete. From here small r can come and small y can come, this is also a gamete. The same thing happens there because the parent is the same only. So how many different type of gametes you get? You get 4 types of gametes. Now if you want to fuse them all, because that is the next part of the question, you're fusing them all. So over here you write the gametes, capital R, capital Y, capital R, small y, small r, capital Y and small r, small y. Same thing you write over here. This is the gametes of another parent. Okay, so capital R, capital Y, capital R, small y, small r, small r, capital Y and small r, small y. Now when you cross this with this, capital R, capital R, capital Y, capital Y. And then you have to do the same thing for all, capital R, capital R, capital Y, small y. The same thing goes on. Just give me a quick second. Okay, and the list goes on. So you have to keep on doing the same thing again and again. So basically you need not do that, my dear children. You need to understand one very important thing, that the end ratio will be looking like this: 9:3:3:1, where 9 of them is going to show the dominant character. Remember, what was the dominant character? It was round and yellow. It was what? Round and yellow. So over here, 9 of them are going to be round and yellow. Can I remove it? I think I should remove it, otherwise you won't be able to understand it. 9 of them dominant character, which is round and yellow. Now 1 of them are going to show the recessive character. What is it? It is wrinkled and green. So color comes second and the shape comes first. So wrinkled and green, round and yellow. Now 3 are the new characters that you see, which you have not seen in the parents. So round was with yellow, or basically you can say that the other characters which is there, it will be mixed up over here. Okay, and wrinkled, which was there, it will be now with what? It will be now with yellow. Here it is with green, right? So here it will be with yellow. So 9:3:3:1. This is going to be the ratio. The dominant over here, the recessive over here, and now you make the new combinations out there. 3 and 3 goes for that. Now you are being said out a total of 144 seats are there. Okay, produced, which develop into sapling. Show the ratio in which these traits are independently inherited in this 144 saplings. How do you say that out of 144, how many of them are going to be round and yellow? How many of them are going to be green, round and green, and all of this thing? So basically for that, what do you need to do? 9 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1 is equals to what? 16. So in total we have 16 things. We have 16 plants. 9 out of 16 into 144, if we do, it comes out to be 81. It comes out to be 81. Okay, 9 into 9, it will be 81. The same thing you have to do for all of them. So 3 by 16 into 144, 3 by 16 into 144 will be giving you this ratio, which is 27. Okay, over here it will be 27. The same thing goes over here also. Now here 1 by 16 into 144, it will be 9. It will be 9. So the ratio will be 81, 27, 27, and then over here 9. So 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. Okay, ratio will be this. So this is what you're gonna get, but we already know the ratio. So this is the thing. Okay. So the gametes that is going to be formed is this, and the traits which are independently inherited are this. Cool? Yes. Now I know that this question is kind of a mixed question, but you will understand it if you give it some time. Show the gametes found when F1 was pollinated, and then I showed you how does a way make the chromosome. It will be more easier for you. And first of all, for that you have to find the F1. So that is the task. That also you can do because you know the parents, right? And then all of this thing. This question is kind of twisted. So level 3 is also officially done. We are in level 4 now, and level 4 contains a 4-marker question which goes like this. Question number 15. Neha consumed boiled sweet potatoes and boiled eggs for breakfast. Boiled sweet potato, which looks like this, and boiled eggs for breakfast. Help her to understand some steps in the process of digestion of the food taken by her by answering the questions given below. Attempt either subpart A or B. So basically there are so many subparts. There is subpart A and B, you can choose between that also. So the first part is something that you can choose. So A is, which of these food items is rich in proteins? Among them, which is rich in proteins, and which part of the alimentary canal is the digestion of this component initiated? So where is the protein digestion being initiated? Name the enzymes, condition required, and the glands associated with digestion over here. So you have to talk about everything. Where is, first of all, what is a food item which is rich in proteins? Now where is proteins being broken down in the body for the first time, and what are the conditions, what are the glands which releases all the things, everything. So my dear children need to understand that among them, it is obviously the egg which will be having the protein, and the name of the protein is albumin. And protein digestion first happens in our stomach. Why? Because in our stomach we have some glands which are known as gastric glands, which releases 3 very important things. One is HCl, other one is pepsinogen, and the other one is mucus. Ma'am, HCl is being released? Yes. Why? Because this is an enzyme, but this is inactive form of an enzyme, and this has to become active to break down the protein which is gonna come. So to make it active, you need an acidic media which is being provided by HCl. So ma'am, in that case, our stomach will be, it is under problem, right? Because it can be troubled with the help of HCl. So basically, to protect our stomach's coating or the lining, we have mucus. We have mucus which is also being released by gastric glands. So what is the enzyme? My dear children, we have not come across the enzyme until now because you just spoke about the inactive form of it. Inactive form of the enzyme is pepsinogen. The actual enzyme which breaks down the protein is pepsin. Is what? Pepsin. So what are the conditions? It needs an acidic pH and it is coated by the mucus. What are the glands? It is the gastric gland. So how do you frame the answer? You frame the answer like this. Eggs are rich in proteins. The digestion of proteins is initiated in the stomach. Gastric glands present in the wall of the stomach release hydrochloric acid, a protein digesting enzyme called pepsin, and mucus. So it does not directly release protein digesting enzyme. Please note that. So this is wrong. In your marking scheme it is given, but it is wrong. It actually releases inactive form of enzyme, inactive pepsinogen. Okay, now the hydrochloric acid creates an acidic medium which facilitates the action of enzyme pepsin and mucus form a coat and protect the stomach lining from the action. So basically hydrochloric acid creates an acidic medium which obviously facilitates pepsin. So pepsin is also being held by the hydrochloric acid, but to make pepsin also you need hydrochloric acid. You should know that. So please write that also over here. So hydrochloric acid is needed for creating an acidic environment which helps in the conversion of inactive pepsinogen to active pepsin and also for the working of pepsin. And the mucus basically forms the coat. So over here I have the picture which will help you remember things. So pepsinogen, which is a zymogen, an inactive enzyme, my dear children, it will need the help of HCl to just provide an acidic medium to convert into pepsin, now the active enzyme. Now the pepsin is going to break down the proteins into partially digested forms of protein in our stomach. After that, the proteins are broken down with the help of the pancreatic enzymes. But the first step is in the stomach itself. Now, you have B part of the question as well. Which of these food items contains fat and how is it digested? Now fat is there in what? Fat is there in the case of, fat is where do you find fat? Fat, my dear children, you will find it in the egg, yes, you will find it in the egg only. In the egg you see the yolk out there, egg yolk, it has enough amount of fat. Now for fat, how do you think it is digested? It is not digested in our stomach, my dear children. So pancreas are the one that is going to act on fats. Okay, the enzymes of the pancreas are the one that is going to act on the fat. Now again, for the enzymes of the pancreas to act, there are two things. First, there should be an alkaline medium. There should be an alkaline medium. So acidic was there from the stomach. Now the food is going to the small intestine, and while it goes, all of this is happening. Okay, so acidic food is coming, you have to make it alkaline. That is one big task. And also, my dear children, these fat molecules which are going to come, they are going to be big. We have to break them down into small things such that the enzyme can act easily. So first of all, you need the help of liver. So liver, my dear children, releases something which is known as bile juice. This bile juice is stored in the gallbladder, another best friend of the liver. But anyways, liver is the one that releases the bile juice. Now why do you need the bile juice? Bile juice is going to break down the large fat globules into what? Smaller fat droplets. This process is known as emulsification. So for emulsification, we need bile juice. Why do you think emulsification is done? So that the enzyme can act easily from all the surfaces. You get more surface area for the pancreatic enzyme to act. What is the name of that enzyme, ma'am? The name of that enzyme is lipase. Lipase, my dear children. So pancreatic enzyme lipase can easily act. And not just that, bile juice makes the food alkaline. Bile juice makes the food alkaline. So egg contains fat, and the bile juice from the liver breaks down the large fat globules into smaller ones for increasing the efficiency of the enzymes and making the medium alkaline. Now emulsified fats are digested by lipase secreted by pancreas. So you call this as pancreatic lipase. Okay, you call this as pancreatic lipase. We are almost gonna end it. Do not be worried. Okay, so it is known as pancreatic lipase and it acts on the lipid. Lipase, lipid is what? A form of fat. So basically for fat it is there. Now C option, C part which is there. Which of these food items is rich in starch and how is the digestion initiated? Starch, my dear children, egg or sweet potato? Obviously sweet potato because it stores starch out there, right? So starch, where do you think its breakdown is initiated? Starch is what, my dear children? A form of sugar. It's carbohydrate, and carbohydrate breakdown starts from our mouth because in our mouth we have salivary glands, right? Gland is there, salivary gland, and salivary gland releases saliva, and saliva, my dear children, has a very important enzyme which you call as salivary amylase. Salivary amylase. So pepsin, lipase, and now salivary amylase. So pepsin was acting on proteins, lipase was acting on lipids, that is fats, and now amylase is going to act on carbohydrate. It breaks down starch into the smaller form which is known as maltose. This again has to be broken down later on, but it happens later on. At least the initial part is being done by the salivary amylase, which is found in our saliva. The saliva is released by salivary gland. So sweet potatoes are rich in starch. The saliva secreted by the salivary glands present in the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity means this cavity, our mouth cavity, okay, contains an enzyme called salivary amylase that breaks down the starch, which is a complex molecule, to give sugar. You do not need to write give sugar, to simpler form of sugar. Starch is also sugar, but it is polysaccharide. It is made up of multiple sugar. Now you're breaking them down to simple form of sugar, which is maltose. Okay? Not exactly simple, but yes. This is also complex in terms that maltose is made up of two different type of carbohydrates. It's not one carbohydrate, okay? But yes. Now one more is there, D part. The figure given below represents parts of the human alimentary canal. Which of these parts will have the maximum amount of food digested as the process of digestion is completed? Which part do you think will have the maximum amount of digested food? So first of all, maximum amount of digestion happens in the small intestine. It happens in the small intestine. Always remember that. It's where the last step of digestion occurs. Maximum absorption of nutrients also happens in the small intestine. So your answer for this question would be O. O is what you call shown as the small intestine. Small intestine, O, will have the maximum amount of digested food as the process of digestion is completed in the small intestine. Done? Done. Now, there is a question for visually impaired students as well, which I think should be discussed. So, how will the digested food be taken up by the alimentary canal? How do you think that our body takes up the digested food, the nutrients of the digested food? So, my dear children, always remember the inner lining of the intestine. If you go inside the intestine, there is something like this. There are folds. There are folds present. Now, what if I tell you in this folds also you have multiple folded structures like this? Yes, my dear children, there are this which you call as villi. Now, what if I tell you that this folded structures have another folded structures which are there, which is known as microvilli. So, basically, I'll tell villi is there, and this villi which is there, basically why do you think it's folded? Because you want to absorb maximum amount of nutrients. It is increasing the surface area. And what is exactly happening over here? The villi which is there, it is richly supplied with blood vessels. It is richly supplied with blood vessels. So basically, while absorption is happening, the absorbed nutrients are reaching my blood vessels, and through my blood vessels, it is being transferred. And not just blood vessels, there are lymphatic vessels also there. So as mentioned over here. So this is a villi. Villi again have some epithelial cells which are known as microvilli, which also helps in what? Absorption. So digested food is taken up by the inner lining of the intestine with the help of finger-like projections. So they themselves are finger-like projections which are known as villi, and above it you can write that they have microvilli. If you do not want to write it, that's also fine. Depends on how much marks the question holds. Now villi which increases what? The surface area for absorption. That is important. And the villi is richly supplied with blood vessels which takes up or absorbs the important nutrients and transfer to the rest of the body. Done? Cool. So basically we have completed level 4 also, and now we are heading towards the last level, which is level 5. Now children who have reached until level 5, kudos to all of you, and put it down in the comment section that I have reached, ma'am. I'll be really proud to see all of it. So question number 16 again has 2 parts. Let's do it. Attempt either option A or B. A is Punit wanted to grow banana plants. Okay. Based on your knowledge on plant production, should he opt for seeds or any other alternate method of reproduction? What do you think? Justify your answer. So banana, does it have seeds? Have you seen seeds? No. Banana has lost the capacity to produce viable seeds. It has seeds, but they are not viable. You cannot put them, they cannot be grown. What else can be done? So apart from sexual reproduction, we have asexual mode of reproduction in plants, which you call as vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation means you are making a new plant with the help of something apart from the flower and everything else that is involved in sexual reproduction. For example, I make a new plant with the help of the stem or with the help of a root or something else. So in the case of banana, my dear children, there is underground stem also. Okay, within the soil also they have stem-like structures which you call as rhizomes. These rhizomes will be having buds and everything which can give rise to a whole new plant. So we just have to take the rhizomes and plant it elsewhere, and that's how we can do vegetative mode of reproduction, or which is known as vegetative propagation. You cannot rely on seeds in the case of banana. So what is your answer for this question? We need vegetative propagation. Puneet should not choose seeds as banana plants have lost the capacity to produce seeds. He should go for vegetative propagation of banana. In your mark sheet it is written as, marking scheme it is written as by cutting. No, it's not by stem cutting, rather you have to use rhizome. Okay. Now, offsprings of a banana plants usually show very little variation. What causes variation, and are variations good or bad? First of all, why do you think variations are less? Because they are undergoing asexual mode of reproduction. One plant is there. Okay, the same genetic thing is going to the next future plant out there. So, do you think variations will be there? No. For variations to happen, either there should be sexual reproduction, two plants should be coming together, right? They should be mixing up the genetic material. That's how things happen. New variations would be coming along. Otherwise, there should be some errors while DNA copying. So when one cell divides into two, the DNA has to be copied and to be sent, right? So while there are some errors in the DNA copying, that's also how you get variations out there. Now the question is, it is good or bad? It is both good and bad. Why good? Because variations sometimes allow us to be different from others, and suppose I have some good amount of variations which let me survive under unfavorable conditions. Don't you think it's a good thing? Yes. Now on the other hand, it can be bad. Sometimes suppose these variations are not really good, it's not allowing me to survive, then what? That's also a problem. But in general sense, even though it's written like it's good and bad, in general it is termed to be good itself. Variation is good as it can help a population tide over unfavorable conditions. Suppose I have the variation, you do not have, so I will survive. And this is how the species continues, right? Now, it is bad as parents, desirable characters are lost. Sometimes variants are not able to survive in the new conditions because the parents, the good characters were there. Now, because of some variation, you have lost it, and which is why the new plants are not able to survive. So, you should know why is it good and why is it bad, and you can vote the answer later on. That I consider it to be good because most often it has good effects. That's why evolution has happened, because of variation. So if you need, you can write it like that also. But you need to justify both of these options. Okay. Now, B question is there, B part is there. Annie was conducting research on the number of fruits produced by watermelon under different conditions. Okay. She grew 25 watermelons. She grew what? 25 watermelon plants, each in both glass house A and B. So in a glass house A and B, she planted watermelon. What difference will she difference she will observe in the number of fruits produced in two glass houses? So wait. She introduced pollinators in glass house A. So in this, she introduced pollinators, as in some insects also. Now, what differences will you observe over here and here? And explain with reason. In the number of fruits, what difference will be there here and here? So my dear children, if at all you do not know, watermelon which is there, it has unisexual flowers, just like papaya. Just like papaya, it also has unisexual flowers. That means in one plant, in one flower, there will be either this female or it can be either this. In one plant is going to be male, another plant is going to be female. So obviously, what do you need? You need pollinators for transferring the pollen grains from here to here. Now, suppose it is not there, what will happen? Do you think pollination will happen? No, my dear children. So here, since pollinators are not there, risky. Here, since pollinators are there, cross-pollination would happen. So you have to frame your answer like that. The presence of pollinators will facilitate cross-pollination between the flowers, increasing the chance of fertilization and the number of fruits being produced. Okay, so which is why what will happen in the case of A, it will be more. So I didn't read the first one. Watermelon has unisexual flowers, the male and the female flowers are separate, and then this. Without pollinators, the probability of pollen falling on the stigma reduces in a unisexual flower, especially if they are far apart. Thus, the number of fruits produced will be less in what? In B. In A, it will be more. Please write that. That is also missed Okay, please write that in B it will be more. In A it will be more, and B it won't be there because pollinators are less, or pollinators are not being put. What am I saying? Forget everything. In A it will be more. Why? Because here you are introducing pollinators. In B it will be less or nil. Because why? You have not introduced pollinators out there. Now list 3 changes that will occur in a flower once it is fertilized. So once a flower is fertilized, what are the changes that you observe? So usually it looks like this. There is ovary, this is stigma, this is style, and this is ovary. Inside the ovary you have the ovule where you have the female gamete. Now suppose the female and the male gamete has fused. What are the changes that is going to happen is being asked over here. Once it is getting fertilized, not pollinated, once it's getting fertilized means fusion has taken place. The ovary which is there, my dears, first of all I'll talk about the ovule. So ovule which is there, it will turn out to be a seed now. Ovule turns out to be a seed. Then what happens outside? Where do you find seed? Inside the fruit. So ovary turns out to be a fruit now. And whatever extra parts were there, for example, petals, sepals, everything, it will all fall down. And it will properly form a fruit. So ovule develops a tough coat and becomes seed. Ovary grows and ripens to form a fruit. And petal, sepal, stamen, style, everything will shrivel and fall off. And with that, we have successfully completed all the questions of our sample question paper. I hope you have learned beyond the questions. I hope you have learned extra concepts also along with us. So if at all you think this session was nice, what was the first thing that you need to do? Let me know in the comment section. Share it with your friends. My dear children, we are going to bring up so very important things out there. Stay tuned. There will be live sessions which will be conducted for you, and you can let us know what is the time where you are free. When do you want us to conduct lives in the comment section. Okay?